Hello again. Welcome back to OUMH 1203 English for Written Communication iLectures. By now, you should be reading topic 5, where you will begin to tackle your essay writing. Here, you're beginning to learn how to write paragraphs, tackling essay questions, do a bit of creative writing, reading up on bibliographies, to how to avoid plagiarism, screening for useful resources, and describing visual data. Let me simplify the process for you. You have already learned how to argue your points earlier. Now let us put your arguments into words. So where do we start? 1. Find your subject. What you do is, as you are reading, and as you listen to people talk, as you explore your world around you, take note. Select the points that interest you, bits and pieces of knowledge, and make clear, readable notes of them. Now then, once you've done that, you can chart your ideas and your impressions. So once this is done, you test for details. So the second steps will be testing your details. This is where you take your sketching, your drawing, your charts, you use your individual senses, you change your perspectives, and you restrict this. And then what you do is, this should restrict your subject. Once you have done that, the third step would be to formulate an overall impression. Now think along these lines. A. Personal descriptions. So you organize the person's description in terms of space and time. And then you think about the style. What do I want to pay attention to? Which detail? And then ask yourself, what tone would I use? How do you want to relate to readers? Next step, step 4, begin with factual description. Again, think of organization. How do you organize the facts in terms of space and time? And but remember to be logical and consistent. Next is, again, a style. The best way is to use simple and specific language. Limit technical language to those that are easily understood. And of course, you can use a factual tone where you can be serious and formal. The question is now, what do you do with the topic and the ideas? What do we do with it? We begin with step 1. The easiest way is to define and classify. Put the things, the ideas, or the issues together with others of the same kind so that you can see it in relation to a bigger picture. How do you do this? You define. A. You use a synonymous definition, a definition by synonymy. This is where the simplest of the definition works best with words and terms. What you do is, you take one word and you find other words that are synonymous, that mean the same thing. So that will give you an idea of what the word means in general. Next, you can work with illustrative definitions. This usually means naming and pointing to a specific person, thing, or instance. That is, by looking for examples of the issue that you're handling. Or you could go for negative definition. You define something by stating what it is not. For example, the iLecture is not something you read. The iLecture is not something you carry with you all over the place. It is a thing which is recorded. Then, once you are capable there, you go for formal definition. A formal definition is a little harder, but really there are just 2 parts to it. 1, link or relate the item you are defining to a larger class. If you're talking about universities, you can start by relating it to all institutions of higher learning. For example, you can say, like all institutions of higher learning, open universities are aimed at enlightening learners with the accumulated wisdom and knowledge accumulated of the human race over the period of our civilization. Next, you differentiate the item you are defining from the larger class. This is when you state ideas specific to the item you are defining. For example, unlike other institutions of higher learning, open universities also aim to allow learner access to this education without forcing them to leave their employment. Taking it one step further, you can extend your definition. After doing the three that you've done above, you can now extend the definition by doing this. A, establishing the class. Regardless of its differences, open universities are characteristically and definitively institutions of higher learning. See? 2, extending the term of discussion. For example, this means that open universities will have the same expectations of their students as other institutions of higher learning. Or 3, you may also want to subclassify the item, relate the history of the item, make comparisons between the item and other items in its class, perform historical or sociological analysis of the item. Right? So, now that you have done all that, how do you continue? Simply put, you need to state two things. Both of these you put at the beginning of your essay. A, make your thesis statement. A thesis statement is simply saying something that you believe, or at least something that you believe in the context of the essay, research paper, or thesis. It has two parts. The subject, the thing you are talking about, for example, scholarships for non-graduate teachers, or fishing in an abandoned tin mine. Next, you have the predicate. This is the thing that you want to say about the thing you are talking about. For example, will help to upgrade the education system as a whole, or is potentially dangerous. Secondly, state the problem that you are trying to solve. The problem actually has two parts also. Part 1, the situation. For example, the government is giving scholarship to 30,000 non-graduate teachers. Or fishing in abandoned tin mines is popular. And B, the unbearable cost resulting from the situation. For example, the scholarships will be useless if the teachers themselves are not motivated to study. Or for example, many are putting their lives in danger by fishing at abandoned tin mines. Once you got that right, you can now start your assignment. Am I right? Now you know what to do. You have your ideas, you have arranged your ideas, and you've stated your thesis statement, you've stated the problem. You're sitting there with all this in front of you. This is where a bit of intuition comes in. And I cannot help you there. This is where you just need to sit down and write it out. And then edit and edit and edit. Right, this takes us to the end of this lecture. And in the next lecture, we'll be talking about how to persuade others into believing what you say. See you then.